do. Oh, and we're live.
What?
I know. It's crazy. It's 9 a.m. on a Saturday.
It's noon p.m. on a Saturday. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you're a time traveling strange person. Something. Derp a derp.
Well, I am strange, I'll give you that much.
Welcome to the Sharkbone Podcast. This is Pod Chatter number 19, being recorded on Saturday, October 15th, 2016. My name is Devin.
And I'm Christopher.
And we are back together for the second time since Christopher's epic move. He defeated myriad enemies and overcame many hardships to get where he is at right now.
Such obstacles.
Such obstacles as a broken foot, which
Yes.
the listeners didn't get to hear about last time because I trimmed it.
That's all right. It's getting better. And it was only a toe, but broken foot sounds more adventurous. Adventurely.
Broken foot?
Adventuresome. You know, it sounds like what an adventurer would do. They break their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a cleric cast Cure Light Wounds and their foot's all better. It's fine.
You're just looking for that cleric, man.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
With all the freaking churches there around here, you'd figure that I'd find one by now. We have almost as many churches on street corners as we do Starbucks around here. It's crazy.
That's nuts. That's a lot different from what you're used to then.
Yeah.
Fun. All right, so Pod Chatter. If you're joining us for the first time or you don't know what a Pod Chatter episode is, Pod Chatters are where Christopher and I just get together and talk about something. Usually it has something to do with gaming. Other times it's just us nerding out about something we really love, like Stargate,
Smallville.
Oh, speaking of TV shows, last night I started watching Supergirl on Netflix. And I'd kind of avoided it because I'd seen some trailers and it looked super cheesy. And I was like, I'm not really in the mood for that. But I watched it last night and the cheese was there. Oh my God, is there cheese? But
the
it's
cheese is
so
good.
much fun.
It's such good cheese. It's like an aged cheese. I don't eat cheese, so I don't know what to compare it to, but it's really good cheese. It's not like crappy, crummy, Walmart brand cheese.
Yeah. It's cheese made with real milk and not oil.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But anyways, so I got through 2.5 episodes and I was like, oh man, I think I'm hooked. This is good.
I think you should be.
Yeah, so that's the show I'm going to be watching for now. I'm sure all of my friends locally here are going to tease me because I'm not watching Luke Cage with them, but
it's all right. I haven't watched it either.
I'm kind of put off of the violent Marvel Netflix shows. It's just I watched a few episodes of Daredevil and the violence was just too much. I don't know. Yeah, it was for me.
I can definitely see that. Did you get to the part with the car door?
That was the part that put me off.
Yeah,
the car door was what put me off. My wife and I were just sitting there watching it and I'm like, wow. Like adding the violence in there to show how horrible this guy is. Yeah, that was like 5 minutes ago and we're still going.
Yep. Yeah, and for me personally, I love Supergirl. I started watching when it first started airing, but as most listeners know, the only DC knowledge I know is from Smallville. So I'm not a DC fanatic who's like, oh, this is wrong and that's wrong and you did that character so badly. I'm like, no, it's a cheesy, lighthearted superhero show.
Yeah,
where the main character is from Krypton and doesn't go around killing people. It's great,
and it's superhero drama.
Exactly.
It's like Smallville but a little grown up, and I'm like, this is what I need, especially since I'm starting to run 2 Smallville games right now.
Yeah, and it's got Ally McBeal.
Mm-hmm.
And she's pretty awesome.
So, TV show tangents aside, let's go ahead and, you know what I should do is I should open up the YouTube page so that I can watch the chat.
Yes, that would be a good idea.
Be handy, wouldn't it? Goodness
gracious.
Would. I am off my something today. Listeners, I apologize. I'm a little scattered today. I got 4 hours of sleep in 2-hour blocks last night, so I'm a little off, I guess you could say. Where is that video? Here it is.
Alrighty.
Just got to mute it so I don't hear myself.
Yeah, that's really weird. Hearing oneself, not specifically hearing you.
And I just heard myself ask, where is that video? Fun. So much fun.
Yep.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and get into some announcements if you have any.
I registered for some events at a catacon this morning. That was cool.
That's awesome. I was kind of watching Twitter's a little bit last night, and I guess the sign-up system crashed.
Yeah, Ro is, Gamers Plane. He's hosting the applet that's for the signups and everything. And he decided to host it on the same server as Gamers Plane instead of creating a separate server. And so with everybody, so we had Gamers Plane traffic as well as a catacon traffic, and the machine that it was running on just couldn't handle that much traffic, and so decided to crap out.
Man, a catacon is so big, it's crashing servers on the internet.
Day one.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of awesome.
Yep.
You fans of the RPG Academy are amazing. So that is an announcement, a catacon. It's going down.
I managed to get in one Shadow of the Demon Lord game with Rob Schwalb, which is going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
D&D 5e game with Shane from Total Party Thrill.
Cool.
That's going to be fun. Got in a few seminars on world building and such, and got into one of the Star Trek, not Star Trek simulator, because they can't use the name Star Trek. Artemis
Space Bridge Simulator. Yeah,
Artemis Space Bridge Simulator. And there are plenty of Artemis events open still, so if anyone who's going to a catacon, sign up for more, because I want to try it more than once.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of the things I wish I could do. In Star Trek news, I did sign up for Modifius's Star Trek Adventures playtest. So I'm hoping that they say yes and they start sending me a playtest packet so that I can start playing with this game to see what it's going to be like.
Well, you have to keep us updated.
So excited. Yes, I will. Like I was in the car yesterday telling my family about it, and my wife, she listens because, she's my wife and she likes supporting what I do, but she doesn't know anything about it. And my son was like, of course you would. It's Star Trek. And I was like, yep, you know me pretty well.
Exactly. At least your kid understands. That's the important thing.
Yep. I signed up for the Galaxy class ship. I forget what it's named, but it's the TNG era of play with well-rounded missions. So if I do get in, I'm going to get to try out a bunch of different parts.
Nice.
So I just need to convince some players. I've got my home group. I've got my son who said he'll try it in my home group. I'm hoping I can convince them because they like trying new systems.
Who doesn't?
I know several people who don't.
That's true. That's it was a rhetorical, because we all know at least a handful.
Very true. Awesome. Listeners, if you are joining us live, you should be able to use the chat box to the right of the video on YouTube to give us some questions or anything, and we will try and get to those as quickly as we can and answer them for you. But for right now, let's go ahead and get into the main topic for this pod chatter, which is organizations, guilds, groups, and other things like that.
Oh, I thought the topic was organization, as in the thing I am horrible at when getting things together for the game.
No, that's not. I mean, this is your topic idea. Put it down as organizations and guilds, so that's what I'm going with.
All right, that's what we're going with. That's fine. I can babble uselessly on that topic as well.
I think I can too. It's a fun topic, and it's rather timely because I'm putting together a Star Wars game. And so I'm figuring out which of the many, many organizations that exist in Star Wars are going to be taking part in this story. And so that's been fun researching Black Sun and the Empire and the Huts and all that other kind of stuff.
Nice.
So first off, let's all get on the same page as far as an organization, guild / whatever goes, and what it means in the game. And Christopher, what do you think that is?
An organization / guild / whatever is just a group of like-minded people who share a common goal that band together for mutual interest, mutual protection, depending on the type of guild. But it's just a bunch of people with the same outlook in it together for the same thing.
Right. And that was the biggest thing that I was thinking of this morning as I was putting together some thoughts for this episode, is that they come together for a reason. They have a reason for banding together. And all you have to do is figure out what that reason is, and boom, you've got an organization.
Right. And an organization could be something as small as, the local football team.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing, in a Smallville game and you're doing a high school football team, is a great organization. The Occult Club is a great organization. But like you said, the Hut Cartel is an organization. Black Sun is also an organization. So the scale is immaterial. You could have an organization of 3 people or an organization of 3 million.
Mm-hmm. And as long as you know what the purpose that they all band together is, then that you'll know what the basic motivations are for any one individual in that organization.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every individual is going to be different. We all know that.
Right.
Just like every member of the orc race or every member of the elf race, they're all different and they're all individuals. But when taken as a whole, you know generally what they're going to be about.
Right.
Okay. That's our episode. Thanks for joining. No.
Let's not throw in the towel just yet. We haven't even talked for 10 minutes on the topic.
So, organizations. There's so much fodder for organizations as far as gaming goes. First, let's talk about our favorite organizations. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. What's your favorite organization for games?
Like, are we talking organization type or specific organization?
I do a specific organization, an organization that you're a fan of in your games.
I'm always a fan of the Rebels. Having grown up with the original Star Wars trilogy, the Rebels, the heroic good guys who are fighting against the big faceless machine of bad guys, and just starting out small, getting the support they need, getting the numbers they need, getting the material they need, and just starting from pretty much nothing, working in your garage up to owning a multi-million-dollar. Wow, I'm totally mixing metaphors right now, but well, you know what I'm saying. You start small and you're totally the underdog. Same thing with Stargate. The SGC is the underdog. The first 2 seasons, the Goa'uld don't even take them seriously. It's not until after they take out a few system lords that the rest of the Goa'uld are like, oh, maybe we should get rid of these guys. They're actually a problem. But by that point, the Asgard have put shields and hyperdrive on the Prometheus so it can stand up to a mothership, thankfully. But the small group that fights against the big overwhelming evil is my favorite type of organization.
Cool. My favorite organization as far as gaming goes is Task Force Valkyrie from Hunter the Vigil. Now, Hunter the Vigil is one of my favorite RPGs. I love the feeling of being a quote unquote normal mortal who's going up against these scary creatures of the night who have supernatural powers and abilities and strength and all that kind of stuff. But I also like the organization that Task Force Valkyrie has, because Task Force Valkyrie is a government-sponsored organization. They're a government tier 3 hunter organization, spacing the exact terminology. But they have the government backing, so they have that big budget. They have all those special weapons. Then that's their shtick. They have advanced technology that they can use against the werewolves, the vampires, and everything like that.
Demons and forces of darkness.
Yeah, and
They
that's
are
all
the
they've got.
slayers.
That's all they've got. They've got the big budget. They've got the government organization, which is either a good thing or a bad thing. We all know how well bureaucracy works. And then they have their advanced technology. Other than that, they're just normal squishy humans, which I really like. So they're like these big bad people who've got all this power, but once someone gets by that power, that really thin line of technology that protects them, they're just as vulnerable as everyone else.
Their superpower is lots of money. Batman.
Yeah, they kind of are like Batman, but with more bureaucracy, more red tape.
Right.
Alfred, I need to take the Batmobile out tonight. I'm sorry, sir, you haven't filled out the right forms.
In triplicate, original signatures on all, in blue or red ink, because black could be a photocopy. And that was a horrible accent, so I apologize to everyone listening.
I only write in black ink, and sometimes very, very dark gray.
Well, how about red? The color of anger and aggression that you show toward everyone.
Yeah. Everything's red. I see everything through a red haze.
There you go. So you can write in red and not even know what you're writing. It's like those decoder rings.
He thinks that all the red pens just don't work because it's the same color red he sees. Awesome. Okay, so let's get back to organizations, shall we? We've talked about our favorites. We've talked about why we like them. Now let's talk about how to use an organization in a game.
Yep. For me, the obvious plot hook is during character creation. Hey, everyone, just so you know, you're part of this organization. This is how you know each other. This is how you guys met. You know, at first you were ordered to work together, and then after a while, you all became friends, colleagues. And then, you know, after a few missions from the organization, you have learned to trust each other with your lives. So there's your backstory. Make your characters. And that works in a wide variety of different games. But the one, I guess we should hold off. Should I do a downside now or hold off and talk about downsides later?
You can talk about downsides now. Okay. It's just a discussion. We don't have a really structure to it.
Because the biggest downside from that, especially if you're doing like an SGC kind of thing where you have military people, or if you're doing a Star Trek game where one person is the captain, one person's his first officer, one person's the lieutenant in charge of whatever, is that having one character be in charge of the other characters could cause some problems. Because a lot of people are more used to the murder hobo. You're just a group of adventurers who kill people together.
Right.
And there's no set structure. But once you impart that structure, even if it's just a loose structure from the organization, some players tend to resent that, even if they're doing things that their character would do anyway. They're like, but I was told to do it. I'm not choosing to do it. Therefore, it's not something that is as fun. So, you know your players and make sure that that's okay with them before you start. Otherwise, you get tangenting again. But you know, you always have that one alpha player who is bossy, and well, I shouldn't say always, but I'm sure we've all had that player where they're the loudest at the table. They're always bossing everyone around, telling everyone what to do, and
at any given table, there's generally one player who will take charge.
Right, and having one player take charge is fine, which is different than the alpha player who, instead of, the player who takes charge is like, hey, this is what we should be doing. Y'all agree with that? All right, let's go. Whereas the alpha player is, this is what we're doing. If you don't like it, there's the door. So you do have that risk of further incentivizing the alpha player to be the boss. They're the colonel, they are the general, they are the captain of the starship, and everyone else has to listen. And if they don't listen, well, you're in the brig for the next 6 weeks for insubordination.
I think my favorite, the way I would use an organization in that case is I would make sure that that player didn't get to make huge calls. I would put them in such a position as I'm going to go back to Hunter because, but like have a is going to make decisions in the field and they're going to do all that kind of stuff. But the team leader still is getting orders from higher up in Task Force Valkyrie. Task Force Valkyrie is still telling them.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Devin, I lost you. Shoot. Devin, you there? Crap. This is what happens when you try to do shit live. And for our one listener, I just want to apologize because it seems that we are having technical difficulties of one form or fashion. Possibly back. Hey, look, it's me. At least I know it's not me who's, Uh-oh. Is that Devin?
I'm back.
All right, Devin's back.
Woo! Woo! I was talking and I was like, oh no, Christopher, did you freeze on me? And then the little blue box in the upper right corner says, we're experiencing network problems. I'm like, no, it was me who froze.
Yeah. You totally did froze.
I froze. But I'm back.
Yep.
What was the last thing you heard me say?
It started cutting out when you were talking about one person might be the team leader, but they're still getting orders from higher up.
Yeah. So basically, that's the gist of what I was saying. If you have a player who's kind of abusing that team leader privilege, then you can always have his higher ups or their higher ups, because I don't want to assume gender, but you can have their higher ups start to micromanage a little bit, and
and you froze again, Devin.
Maybe you for the play a bit more if you have an NPC kind of micromanaging them, and of course you don't want to zoom in too far and micromanage too much. It's all going to be a balancing act. It's all going to be communication with you and your players. But yeah, there we go.
And another thing you can do, I actually got this idea from reading the Codex Alera by Jim Butcher. One of the races, I guess you can say, in his world, they have a war chief and a peace chief. So, the war chief would have two players be in charge of the group, but the war chief calls the shots in combat, and then the peace chief calls the shots, when you're not, when you have to worry about more social situations, then the peace chief is in charge. When you're trying to figure out the best course of action, the peace chief is in charge. But once you roll initiative, the war chief is in charge, and they get to call the shots. And that might be exactly what that alpha player wants. He wants to be able to, be the general in combat directing his troops.
Right.
Just give him his 5 minutes to shine, and everything else will be fine out of combat, because he knows that, or they know that when the time comes, they're going to be the ones who brings the group to victory.
That's a good point. And when my home group, we play Werewolf quite often, Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that we end up doing when we're playing, is that, you know, every werewolf has their auspice, their
And you froze again.
God, stupid internet.
It is stupid. That's true. Its IQ is well below 27.
But you heard it. You heard me right there. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard you say every werewolf has their own auspice, and then
Yeah,
you
so
froze.
every werewolf has their thing that they do in taking the fight to the worm. And so we just kind of have an agreement when we play that, like, in this kind of situation, you're the alpha of the pack. When we roll initiative, you're the alpha of the pack, you know, being another werewolf. And so everyone's kind of got their area of expertise. So in different situations, everyone takes the lead, which is pretty much what the war leader or the war chief and the peace chief do.
Yeah.
But we kind of separate it out just a little bit more so that every player gets their chance to shine in different situations.
Yeah. Yeah, I had totally forgotten about werewolf and how everyone has their own specific niche. And for a wolf pack, it makes total sense. And, you know, wolf pack, again, there's a great organization, werewolves, because in pretty much every game and every book and every movie and TV show I've seen that deals with wolves, you know, there's always a pack structure. There's always a hierarchy, which in of itself is a type of organization.
And they do that for survival, you know, so there's the purpose of their organization there. So
exactly,
as a GM running that organization, you always know what those individuals are going to be doing to further the goals of that organization.
Right.
Another thing that I really like using organizations for is that it's really easy to just make an organization and then make like 3 or 4 typical member stat blocks. So then whenever you're having to improvise off the cuff or something like that, and they run up against somebody and you say, all right, these are Black Sun operatives. You can say, I automatically have stat blocks for these guys, so I don't have to pause the game and look anything up. I know exactly where they are.
Yep. Yeah, that's great for, you know, organizations that are the bad guys, or just neutral organizations that you'll be running into. You know, if the players are working for Black Sun, and that's their contact, and who knows, maybe someone's going to follow them back to their contact, and there's fight's going to break out, and so you need to have combat stats for the Black Sun guys, even though the players aren't fighting. You as a GM are running them.
Yeah.
Heck, if you want to go that way, you could say something like, you know, the security detail at a space station is an organization. Well, here's the grunts. Here's one stat block for the grunts. Here's one for maybe like a squad leader, and then here's one for the person in charge of the entire station.
Yeah, that's a very good example.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you know, you can use organizations make great bad guys because players have a tendency to eliminate the bad guy that you give them access to, whether uh-oh, Devin, did you freeze? He totally froze again. Devin?
I froze again.
You did froze again. What was the last thing you heard?
An organization, I don't remember. I was cursing at my screen too much.
An organization makes a great enemy for the players, because players have a nasty habit of eliminating whatever bad guy you put in their path.
Yes, they do.
Whether they kill them, or they imprison them, they frame them, they teleport them to the moon, they befriend them. There are all sorts of ways that players can eliminate the person you set up to be the big bad. And then if they are just the only thing you have for the big bad, then your storyline is over. You have to figure out something else.
Yeah.
But if you have an organization and they're just the current face of that organization, then it's like, okay, we've now befriended the evil count. Well, guess what? The count informs you that he's been working for this organization. They have, leverage over him, so he's doing it against his will. Here are the steps you need to take in order to overthrow the organization. Will you help me? And so you can continue down that road. And I think Devin froze again. Did Devin froze again? Devin froze again. I apologize to our one watcher, Kendall, if you're still watching. This is not normal for Pod Chatter episodes. Usually the internet works a lot better for him. Well, I guess the show must go on, right?
Indeed. The show must go on.
All right, Devin's back.
So yes, using an organization as the bad guy that the PCs are going up against is great because they can go after it and they can eliminate person after person in the organization, but it can be like Hydra. You chop one head off, two rise in its place.
Yeah. Or you defeat Apophis and Anubis steps in.
Exactly.
Defeat Anubis, Baal steps in.
Mm-hmm.
Defeat Baal, well, that's it. The Replicators step in. Spoilers.
And then we get the fantastic movie continuum.
Yep. In which Baal steps in again.
Mm-hmm. I love that movie. It's so good.
It really is. Both of them are actually really good.
They are. I just like Continuum more. More my style, I think.
Yeah, I like the Arc of Truth just because it's very Indiana Jonesy.
It is. And then I really like some of the sets and some of the what is it? What am I trying to say?
I have no
some
idea.
of the visuals in it, like the one where Teal'c is running across that puddle-strewn land, running towards the building, where the Ori are, or the whatever they're called. My brain's not working right this morning.
That's okay.
But anyway, organizations.
Yep. Organizations.
We've had so many lost connections right now. I'm not even sure where we were in the discussion.
Well, I was just giving examples of how players can be given leads from, you convert one of the bad guys from an organization to your side, and he's like, oh, hey, I work for this organization. So here, if you want to take down the organization, here's what you have to do. So, it's a great reward that you defeated. You didn't kill, you didn't destroy, but you defeated the bad guy, converted him to your side, and as the reward, not only did you make this area whatever safer, but they're helping you, giving you inside knowledge on the overall organization.
Yeah. And an organization is going to be a lot harder for the PCs to take down. So you're going to have a longer story arc with that than you would if it were just the Lich up in the castle.
It depends on the size of the organization, because
that's very true.
Taking down a local thieves guild is going to be a hell of a lot easier than trying to take on the Galactic Empire.
Yeah. If you storm into a house and you kill 5 members of this local thieves guild, well, you just killed half of their membership. You storm into a barracks on Signar 5 and kill 20 stormtroopers. They didn't even feel that loss. The Empire is just like, whatever. It's
a rounding error. No big.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, the bigger organizations are going to be harder for the players to take down. Although with the bigger organizations, I think there's probably, I don't know, I'm going to say something and I want you to tell me if my thinking holds out. Bigger organizations might be easier to destroy by cutting off the head because there's only one head.
Depending on the type of organization, yes. Because if you take a look at Star Wars story, the Emperor was pretty much in charge of everything. There was no line
Yes.
of succession. There's no there was no second. Well, his second in command killed him. So the the governing body of the Empire, which was the Emperor and his enforcer Vader, were both killed. So the Empire started to fall apart. But if you look at something like in the remake of Battlestar Galactica, the Cylons took out what 25 members of the president and his cabinet, because I think Roslin was 26th in line or 36, something like that. So there was, with a clear line of succession, the organization can go on if you take out the head.
Right.
Similar to the TV show that's just started. Kiefer Sutherland. I don't remember. My mom has been watching it and talking about it. During the State of the Union address, the president and most of his cabinet was killed, and so Kiefer Sutherland is like a low down, dedicated survivor. Thank you, Kendall. He mentioned that in the chat for over on YouTube. So a dedicated survivor. He becomes the president because everyone else above him in the line of succession was killed, because he was specifically put head of housing and urban development. So that's what his character did for the government. And
he is very qualified to be president of the United States.
Right. And so he was in a bomb shelter when this whole thing was going on. I haven't seen the show yet, but this is from what I've been able to gather from my mom telling me how awesome it is. And so that he's in this bomb shelter because he was the dedicated survivor in case something happened, and something did happen. And right. So he was the only person who survived, so he became the president. So, the U.S. is quite a large organization, the United States government, but because they have a clear line of succession of who gets power if, the president is gone, if the vice president is gone, because of that, it's harder to kill the organization by chopping off the head. And Devin froze once again. Thank you, Kendall, for answering all the questions on this TV show I know nothing about. So if anyone's interested, while we're waiting for Devin to come back, Dedicated Survivor is apparently a really good show that is approved by Kendall from Redemption Podcast, as well as my mom, with no podcast affiliation, but, she's still pretty cool. I guess I'll just continue and wait until Devin gets back. But with large organizations, going back to the Empire as an example, more totalitarian organizations such as that, even medieval kingdom, as long as you take out the head, the rest of the organization will quickly fall apart, especially with the more evil people and organizations, because they think that they're going to be around forever, which means that they have no backup plan. And so for those type of organizations, it would be super easy to take them out. And to go back to Devin's example earlier of Hydra, from the Captain America movie, once you took out Red Skull, the rest of Hydra pretty much fell apart. Of course, the second Captain America movie showed that part of it survived, but the global Hydra threat was put aside for quite a long time, waiting for the right moment, but they were no longer there. They were no longer known. So maybe Hydra is a bad example. But I really feel awkward just talking by myself to a blank screen, but I don't know what else to do, so just carry on. Otherwise, yeah, I got nothing else. Wait for Devin to come back, hopefully soon. Aha! Speak of the devil. And he's back.
Yay, for the 4th time. Or something like that.
Yep. Next time, reset your router before we record.
Yeah, if it were...
And that was pretty much that. Didn't even get to finish a full sentence. Way to go, Devin.
I cut off again?
Yes, you cut off again.
I don't know what the... Maybe it's time we just cut this one off. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's
I don't know what his
ridiculous.
problem is.
I don't know either. But do you have any final thoughts before you
Final
freeze again?
thoughts. Organizations. They're awesome. No, organizations are a great tool in any GM's toolbox. It's going to broaden the scope of any kind of story you're going to tell, because it's going to mean that many more people are involved and interested in whatever's going on than just the PCs and the immediate threat they're going up against. So if you throw an organization onto it automatically, it's going to make everything bigger in scope. It's going to affect more people, affect the world more. And I think that it's an organization is a great lens through which to see those changes, because you'll also be able to figure out more easily how it affects all the people involved.
Yeah. And another example that just popped to mind is Star Wars Rebels. I'm just going to throw it out there because season 1, it's just the main characters doing their thing, trying to free their one planet. And then at the end of season 1, they find out they're part of a larger rebellion against the Empire.
Right.
And so that's a great way to slowly introduce the idea of these other organizations into your gameplay without saying, hey, you're part of this organization. Be like, hey, there's this other organization out there and they're looking for members. Are you interested? Huh? And see if they bite. And he froze again. Awesome. Okay. On behalf of myself, because I can still talk, and Devin, because he's... Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm here. So I was just going to say that introducing an organization like that is great because it also allows the PCs to become familiar through gameplay with the organization instead of just saying, you're part of this organization. And they're like, great. Who are these people? What do they do?
Yeah.
You know, because then you can just introduce that through play, through NPCs, and they become more familiar with it. And that'll do it for this episode. I apologize for all of the technical issues. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have a stern word with my router and modem and make sure they play nice next time.
Sounds like a good idea.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. I will just say good day and join the frenzy.
Have a good one, y'all. And remember, always check for connectivity problems.
So... because you're not in Texas anymore, are you still going to say y'all?
I've always said y'all my entire life. It's
okay.
It's part of my vernacular.
All right. So thanks for listening, y'all.
Have a good one.
Peace. We're out.